Hello everyone, my name is Kishan Agarwal. Today I am going to present my concept video of programming with objects, and my topic is HTML, CSS, JavaScript and document object model, that is DOM. So let us begin with what is HTML. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and it is the most widely used language to write web pages. Hypertext refers the, to the way in which web pages HTML documents are linked together. Thus, the link available on our web page is called hypertext. As its name suggests, HTML is a markup language, which means you use HTML to simplify markup a text document with tags that tell a web browser how to structure it to display. Originally, HTML was developed in with the intent of defining the structure of documents like heading, paragraphs, lists, and so forth to facilitate the sharing of scientific information between researchers. Now, HTML is being widely used to format web pages with the help of different tags available in the HTML language. Next, CSS. Cascading style sheets, fondly referred as CSS, is a simply designed language intended to simplify the process of making web pages presentably. CSS allows you to apply styles to web pages. More importantly, CSS enables you to do this independent of the HTML that makes up each web page. It describes how a web page should look. It prescribes colors, fonts, spacing, and much more. In short, you can make your website looking however you want. CSS lets developer and designers define how it behaves, including how elements are positioned in the browser. While HTML uses tags, CSS uses rule sets. CSS is easy to learn and understand, but it provides powerful control over the presentation of an HTML document. So we can say that HTML is a skeleton without CSS. Next, we'll look at JavaScript. JavaScript is a lightweight, object oriented programming language which is used by several websites for scripting the web pages. It is an interpreted, fully fledged programming language that enables dynamic interactivity on websites when applied to an HTML document. It was introduced in the year 1995 for adding programs to the web pages in the Netscape Navigator browser. Since then, it has been adopted by all other graphical web browsers. With JavaScript, users can build modern web applications to interact directly without reloading the page every time. The traditional website uses JavaScript to provide several forms of interactivity and simplicity. So basically, a web page is designed using these three languages: HTML as a markup language, CSS as a style sheet, and JavaScript as a programming language or a scripting language. Although JavaScript has no connectivity with Java programming language, the name was suggested and provided in the time when Java was gaining popularity in the market. In addition to the web browsers, databases such as Couch database and Mongo database uses JavaScript as their scripting and query languages. So let us see what are the features of JavaScript. All popular web browsers supports JavaScript as they provide built-in execution environment. JavaScript follows the syntax and structure of the C programming language, thus it is a structured programming language. JavaScript is a weakly typed language, that is, where certain types of are implicitly cast depending on the operation. JavaScript is an object oriented programming language that uses prototypes rather than using classes and inheritance. It is a lightweighted and interpreted language. It is also case sensitive language. As we know that JavaScript is supportable in several operating systems including Windows, Mac operating system, etc. It provides good control to the users over web browsers. These are a few features of JavaScript. There are many more features of JavaScript. So let us begin to the introduction of DOM, that is document object model. So a document object model is the data representation of the object that comprises the structure and content of a document on the web. This guide will introduce the DOM document object model, looks at how the document object represents an HTML document in a memory and how to use the APIs application programming interfaces to create web document and applications. Next is, what is DOM? The document object model is a programming interface. It is not a programming language, it is a programming interface for web documents. It represents the page so that programmers can change the document structure, style and content. The DOM represents the document as a node and objects. That's why programming languages can interact with the page. So DOM is used with HTML, it is also used with CSS, it is also used with Java. We'll see in later slides how it is used. A web page is a document that contains either displayed in the browser window or as the HTML source. So in both the cases it is the same document, but the document object model representation allows it to be manipulated. As an object oriented representation of web page, it can be modified with scripting language such as JavaScript. So what is DOM? All the properties, methods and events available for manipulating and creating web pages are organized into objects. For example, document object that represents the document itself is organized under a table that implements HTML table element document object memory interfaces for accessing HTML tables and so forth are all objects. The DOM is built using multiple APIs that work together. The core DOM defines the entities describing any document and the object within it. This is expanded upon as needed by other APIs that add new features and capabilities to the DOM. For example, HTML DOM APIs adds supports for representing HTML document to the core DOM, and SVG APIs add supports for representing SVG documents. DOM and Java. So document object model, as we said that it is not a programming language, but without it the JavaScript language wouldn't have any model or notion of web pages. HTML documents, SVG documents and their components parts. The document as a whole, the head, table within the document, table header, text within the table cells and all other elements in the document are part of document object model for that document. They can all be accessed and manipulated using document object model and a scripting language like JavaScript. The DOM is not a part of JavaScript language but is instead a web API used to build websites. JavaScript can also be used in other contents. For example, Node.js runs JavaScript programs on a computer but provides a different set of APIs, and the DOM API is not core part of the Node.js runtime. The DOM document object model was designed to be independent of any particular programming language, making the structural representation of the document available for a single consistent API. Even if most web developer will not only use the DOM through JavaScript, implementation of the DOM can be built in any language like Python. Accessing DOM. How to access DOM? You don't have to do anything special to begin using document object model. You use the API directly in JavaScript from within, which is called a script, a program run by browser. When you create script, whether inline a script element or include the web page, you can immediately begin using the API for the document or window object to manipulate the document itself or any web page. As it is generally recommended to mix the structure of the web page written in HTML and manipulation of the document object model written in JavaScript, the JavaScript parts will be grouped together here and separated from the HTML. So what are the fundamental data types in DOM? The vast majority of the code that uses the DOM revolves around the manipulating HTML documents. It's common to refer the nodes in the DOM as elements, although strictly speaking, not every node is an element. Document, node, element, node list, named node map, attribute, that is ATTR, are some of the data types in document object model. Document object model interfaces. This guide is about the objects and actual things you can use to manipulate the document object. DOM hierarchy. There are many points where understanding how these works can be confusing. For example, the object representing the HTML form elements get its name property from HTML form element interface, but its class name property forms the HTML element interface. In both cases, the property you want is in that form of object, but the relationship between objects and the interface that they implement in the DOM can be confusing, and so this section attempts to say a little something about the actual interface in the DOM specification and how they are made available. Interfaces and objects. Many objects implement several different interfaces. The table object, for example, implements a specialized HTML table element interface, which includes such as methods as create caption and insert row. But since it is an HTML element, table implements the element interface described in the DOM element into reference chapter. And finally, since an HTML element is also, as far as the DOM is concerned, a node in the tree of the nodes that make up the object model for any HTML or XML page. The table object also implements the more basic node interface from which elements are derived. When you get a reference to a table object, you routinely use all the three of these interfaces interchangeably on the object, perhaps without knowing it. Thank you.